it's never enough, right? You're always learning something new, but at some point, we look for first-class managers. Now, within that group, there's some that just stand out. That just you can look at Bruce Flatt, the CEO of Brookfield Asset Management, as an example, and you ask him what his hobby is, and it's collecting shares of Brookfield. He's never sold any shares. His lifestyle, we looked at his personal lifestyle, has not changed. He owns the same house he's had in New York, or same apartment, same one in Toronto. So money doesn't mean very much to him, yet he's worth $500 million. And you could look back at his decisions. One thing again with Factiva, you get a lot of articles, and how he acted in certain situations. So, on September 11th, when the Twin Towers fell, Brookfield Properties owned the 4 World Financial Center towers around that, and they were also they were damaged. And what Bruce did is the day he heard of it, he got in a car and got down to New York, and started managing from the field, basically figuring out what is going on with our buildings. They were saying they were structurally damaged in the news, and he went in there and checked it out for himself to see if they were, and then they had some subsidiaries that provided plywood and certain materials, and he had those shipped immedately so that they could get their tenants back up and running. So when you read stories like that, you kind of know you're dealing with a first-class manager, that just pop, to you, and it's rare when they do. The most difficult are those that are long tenured. They've been at the business for a long time. They weren't the founders. The founders are kind of easier to analyze. You look at, like the proxy statement, and there's a lot of indicators of who you're dealing with. But then the more difficult ones are, again, these people who've been at the business for a long period of time. So what we're looking for is making sure, for example, integrity is very important. And it's so easy to say, oh, I want to find somebody with integrity. Well, the only way you're going to know if somebody has integrity is if their character's been tested, and what did they do in a difficult time? That's the only way. And so one of the questions on that checklist is, define a moment of integrity, because you really can't say that, I can't just have a gut reaction and meet somebody and think they have integrity, because that happens. I may be biased. They may look like me and act like me, and oh, they're great. I like them. So you look for these moments of integrity. So, once we have a good sense that they have a good character, it really gives you. So, talk about moment of integrity. Dave Gold, who was the founder of 99-cent only stores, which is a dollar retailer based out of Los Angeles, unfortunately died about a week and a half ago. I remember reading articles about Dave, and one of them, I run into this negative article saying the SEC was investigating him because he had bought back a business from 99 that 99 had acquired 2 years before. And the SEC was basically accusing him of self-dealing, as well as shareholders saying, hey, you're buying this cash cow from the company and putting it in your pocket. So I kept reading the articles, and I learned 2 years later that what had happened is that Dave bought this business because it was a mistake, and he bought it back from the company. And he paid 2 times what they had paid for it, because during the time it had sustained operating losses. But Dave felt so bad for the shareholder, he really did, that he bought back this mistake, and because it was his idea to make this acquisition. And it's like, you run into something like that, you don't need to know more with that kind of action. They have integrity. Now if you don't see those actions, it gets a lot more difficult, and you gotta, sometimes you have to wait. If capital allocation is important to the business, you have to define, what's very important to this business. And say it's a spinoff, and it's a new CEO, and the capital allocation decisions were made at the conglomerate level. Well, you have to wait to answer that question, and maybe you don't invest as much. Maybe you kind of wait for certain information again, if it's a very capital intensive business, and that's very important to that business to create value in the future, then you just wait. And so in those cases, we just wait to see a track record, how are they allocating capital? Because if we go and assume that they're good capital allocators without any track record, that's when we make a mistake. So that's kind of what we're trying to answer is depending on every business has certain things that are very important to it, that you have to kind of figure out, what that is, and then just and see if you see a track record or evidence to ask, to stand by your thesis.